Welcome back to another high-level match of StarCraft 2. Now what I've got for you today is a best-of-3 series from the GSL Code S that was played a couple of days ago. And this particular series is the Deciders match to decide who moves on to the next stage of the event. Now spawning right here in the top left-hand corner, playing with the Red Terran SCVs, we have none other than TY. TY, of course, recently completing his military service. We hadn't really seen a whole lot of his games, but he managed to qualify for this event by actually taking down his opponent. They met again in the main tournament as well. Playing right here with the blue Protoss pieces, we have one of the greatest Protoss players in the world, and his name is Classic. Alrighty, Classic versus TY from the GSL Code S. I have heard about this particular series. I heard about Terran Battlecruisers, which I don't know if it's going to be this game or maybe one of the other games in this best of 3. We'll find out together, but I'm excited to find out exactly what ended up going down. It's an interesting game number 1 though, NeoHumanity, to start things off on. So anyways, TY. In case that name doesn't really ring a bell, I mean, I did cast that qualifier match between TY and Classic as well a couple of weeks ago. For some reason, that video has got way less views than my normal videos do. I mean, it's not necessarily terrible, but I guess maybe a lot of people may have missed that one, or maybe something went wrong with the YouTube notifications. I'm not exactly sure. Speaking of which, by the way, if you aren't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, if you hit the little bell icon and you hit the subscribe button, you get notified as soon as a new video... I'm trying to do a sellout here and it doesn't work. As soon as a new video goes live. So, you know, I recommend you go ahead and do so, just on the off chance that YouTube doesn't send out the notification, which happens every once in a while. At the very least, sometimes I have a video that just doesn't perform particularly well compared to the others, and I can't quite figure out why that is. Anyhow, TY. I mentioned it as well in that video, but real quick, he completed his military service, and he mentioned that he comes back to StarCraft 2, but he's also playing StarCraft Brood War. Apparently, he thinks he can combine both games, well, at the same time, which is kind of crazy. Not really something we've seen that much before. I mean, obviously, there are players that have successfully transitioned from StarCraft 1 to StarCraft 2, and from StarCraft 2 to StarCraft 1. There are players that have been very successful in both games as well, like, for example, Rain. But anyways, TY apparently is currently playing both games at the same time. And I guess if he's qualified for a Brood War tournament, he'll be putting most of his attention for, well, to Brood War. And I guess if he's playing StarCraft 2, and he's playing a tournament, he may as well focus a little bit more on SC2. It's an interesting decision, but it also meant that we haven't really seen him play in a lot of smaller online tournaments over the last half year or so. So I haven't really seen that many of his games. As a matter of fact, I think the GSL Code S, the qualifier replays, were the very first ones available in quite a few months. So I wasn't entirely sure where TY was actually at with his, well, skill level. Considering in the qualifier he ended up taking down Classic, he certainly is on point, and, well, he's been looking very strong. Surprisingly strong as well. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised, because the man, I mean, he is a previous StarCraft 2 world champion. But yeah, it's good to see him getting back to the game and getting back in shape. Anyways, there's going to be a Blink Stalker opener right here for Classic. We'll have to see how many gateways he decides to produce. Classic, of course, generally a macro Protoss. Okay, it's going to be 3 gateways right here in total. You can play this very aggressively if you're, for example, Hero or maybe a Max Packs, right? You can definitely get your Stalkers in your opponent's main base if you want to, but you can also play it a little bit more passively, and that seems to be the style that Classic prefers. So he's being a little bit obnoxious over here with a few Adepts at the front. Okay, it's going to be a 1-1-1 right here for TY. Fair enough. That does mean he gets himself quite a few units out here early on. Okay, one of the Marines ends up going down, loses an arm as well in the process. So far, good game here by Classic. Okay. They shade away, but they do get that SCV on their way out. So far, no losses yet on the side of Classic, and getting 2 SCVs is not a bad start whatsoever. Cyclone coming up. 2 Widow Mines already flying across the map. At this point, TY must realize that it's not going to be a Stargate opener from the opponent, so he may as well use those Widow Mines offensively. And you know what? Looks like Classic may be thinking about making a Nexus over here. Yeah, TY is actually accidentally going to scout this. Now, this does hit before Blink is done. Okay, he does pull the probes. Yeah, when Blink is done, this sort of defense becomes a whole lot easier. You know what? He sees the location of the 3rd as well. Okay. A Raven on the back of this too. Now the 3rd command center comes up. Gonna have a very late stim pack at this rate. Okay, Blink at the very least is done though. Robo Bay coming up right now too, so he doesn't really need that much. Yeah, third Nexus over here in the back. We should really start mining out these mineral fields, so we can actually, you know, get across, other than with Blink. Especially if we're gonna go into Colossus. I do think it's probably a good plan to mine out these mineral fields over here, just so your units can defend both bases at the same time. Alrighty. Observer coming across here. That will confirm in a moment what exactly the Terran player is going for. And so far, what is the Terran player going for? Extra gas is going down right now in the natural expansion. Ooh, cute little move right there actually from TY. So that is a clear example of him being on point. He just boosted the medevac because he knew the timing at which that observer is supposed to arrive, and he just wanted confirmation. That's actually really big. Now, what about these gases over here? Ah, okay. I was gonna say, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to... This is weird, though. So there's a good reason why we don't see mass factory play against Protoss. That's mostly due to the fact that Protoss has about 17 different units, basically all the units that Protoss has, that are really good against Terran Mech. So I'm not exactly sure how this is going to work out here. Most notably, I guess the Immortal is fantastic. Eventually, if you need it, Tempest are obviously really, really good as well. There's really not a whole lot that Terran can do against these units. Terran Mech, very popular, well, in Terran versus Zerg. We see it as well in Terran versus Terran, but in Terran versus Protoss, it's always been an uncommon strategy. And I actually didn't realize that this happened in this particular match. Actually, now that I'm saying that, I feel like there's a bell going off in my head right now. I feel like somebody mentioned this, but I didn't realize it was this particular series. Double armory on the back of this as well here for TY. Okay. So, we're just gonna go full Terran Mech. Interesting. Especially against somebody like Classic, this surprises me a little bit. Classic is looking around the map right now as well, making sure that there's nothing all too fishy here going on. Putting down pylons to stop any medevac drops. I don't think you're gonna deal with a lot of medevac drops in this game, Classic. So Classic is very much so the guy who will be more than happy to play the macro game. That's what he loves to do. He loves playing defensively, he loves sitting back, he loves then eventually overwhelming the opponent. So the fact that TY is happy to play this style against Classic is very interesting to me. Look at that as well. A full wall off over here. The fact that we're a NeoHumanity may very well be one of the reasons why TY decides to go for this. So he's just going mass defense over here. Interesting. There is that rich Vespine geyser over here at the front, and in general, this is a map where you can create a relatively easy split map scenario. Disruptors, by the way, coming up. We have a few Colossi over here, and I think these two bad boys are gonna confirm exactly what's going on. Look at the amount of siege tanks. The Marine count is curious though, right? I mean, there's no stim pack. Okay, now he's seized for sure. This is, okay, he's been making a ton of Marines here for quite a while, but this is not a group of Marines that has a combat shield upgrade or a stim pack research or anything like that. Yeah, no, that's not going to happen, buddy. I was gonna say, there's no way you're gonna push into that. Command Center number 4 coming up as well. Alright, well apparently Classic does want to start at least harassing the opponent a little bit. Sensor Tower over here is gonna cover all of this very nicely too. Yeah, he's already got a ring of sensor towers. Well, not quite a ring yet. A few sensor towers set up in locations where the Prism is gonna have a hard time. I don't exactly see how in the world TY is gonna be broken. So he scans over here, he sees Disruptor, so not a great unit here. I think this is the right call, yeah. Classic going straight into double Stargate. It's been a while since I've seen a game against Terran Mech with Protoss, so I have to figure out what the best approach is. So triple Stargate Fleet Beacon here, straight up for Classic. I think this is the right call. He does have enough Disruptors at this point to basically prevent a move out. So he's gonna get... Did he actually cancel his additional Disruptors? He may have actually. Anyways, he does have 4 Disruptors here, which makes it very tricky for the Terran to get a good engagement in. Although this is still a pretty pathetic looking Protoss army compared to the Terrans though. Oh, here's the anti-armor missile as well to make it even more dangerous. Prism tries to come in. Okay, does find a bit of an angle to unload those Zealots without itself going down. Zealots right now trying to go in as well. And at the very least, this is gonna alleviate some of that pressure, right? So, yeah, Classic not really getting a lot of kills with that second group of Zealots, but the first are actually killing 12 SCVs. Maybe most importantly, though, he decides to go carriers. Okay. Maybe most importantly, though, Classic has managed to push back that main army. And the main army here, it's being all army hotkeyed. Oh, beautiful force field there. Very lovely work here by Classic, actually. Yeah, nicely done. Okay, so that main army here, it's being controlled in one big ball, it seems. TY, he wanted to go for a push, but that's not going to happen. Same thing right here for this warp in. I don't think there was a whole lot of space there anyways, but now with the Prism being dead, it's going to be hard to pull that off. Anyways, what Classic really needs right now is a little bit of time. A little bit of Oliveira. No, but he just needs a bunch of upgrades and a bunch of carriers and Tempests and all the rest of it. I'm actually a little surprised he decides to go for carriers here. Tempests are considered to be fantastic at, well, picking off units from a distance. As far as I can tell, there's nothing really available here for TY to deal with Tempest. He scans the main base right now, he sees the reveal, and he does realize, okay, this is gonna be a game against Skytoss. Now, he's effectively forced that himself. Planetary here in the middle as well. Zealots once again coming in. Okay, there is a little bit of a gap right here in this army. Zealots over here as well at the bottom. Main army here in some trouble too. Zealots here get cleaned up. Lovely movement here by our Protoss player overall. Yes, he does throw away a lot of expensive units, but he kind of needs to make room. He needs to make room to replace some of those Zealots with more and more, well, heavy hitters. The +2 upgrade needs to be fired up as well. Second, Cyber Core. I love everything here about what Protoss is doing. I don't know exactly how helpful these units are going to be. If we're not going to go into maybe some Thors? Honestly, I don't really even know exactly what Terran is supposed to do in these circumstances. So, apparently what TY decides to do is just go mass Viking. There is Stargate number, well, 4 and 5? We have 5 Vikings coming up at once, and Vikings are good, but there are some things you have to keep in mind, right? Like, Protoss can, of course, well, transition towards Psionic Storm, right? They can even go into the Mama ship. There's a lot of options here. Okay, now we're gonna go into Tempest. There's a lot of options here for Protoss player to make this army even more terrifying. I wouldn't mind seeing a Templar Archives, though. He's got the money for it. I do think it would be a nice idea. I'll loosen that Archon over here at the front. Okay. Yeah, so we're just getting all the upgrades here and all of the tech and everything we could ever want. More and more Nexi coming up. We're setting ourselves up for a proper split map here. I've seen a lot of split map games with Terran versus Zerg on this map, and very few for Protoss versus Terran, but this is going to be interesting. Okay, so in a split map scenario, generally speaking, it's the player who mines more that wins. But obviously if... Oh, nice anti-armor missile. That is going to actually be a couple of dead carriers here. Yeah, lovely work. There's no Archons or anything, so these carriers are just going to straight up die. Yeah, I say that. Turns out the carriers are still plenty tanky, but that was a good engagement there for sure for our Terran player. Loses 9 Vikings, gets 4 of these carriers. Not bad at all. 9 Vikings in total. I think 1 or 2 may have already died earlier. But anyways, in a split map scenario, it usually comes down to the player who manages to mine one of the opponent's bases. Now, how in the world are you gonna pull that off? So this base over here, I guess, is the most likely candidate for Classic to mine. But I'm honestly not entirely sure. He's not really thinking about that at this point, though. Yeah, what he is thinking about right now is just trying to break this before it gets really too crazy. So both players have roughly 100 workers and 100 army supply. The dancing has begun. We're a little bit late, actually, on the flyer attacks. I wouldn't have minded seeing maybe a 3rd armory even though that sounds like a crazy thing to say out loud. Additional starports, additional command centers. Is this what TY has become, by the way? A Turtle Terran? Is this the TY we can all expect to play more and more games of StarCraft 2? Okay. With 100 workers, by the way, you do mine out your bases very rapidly. Especially if you add mules into the mix. Yeah, both players are gonna have a tremendous amount of income. Overall, this has been slightly in favor of Classic over the last few minutes, but when we get to that absurd amount of orbital commands, Terran can very easily catch up. Okay. You know what? Mass Viking seems to do just fine. Anti-armor missile is definitely a nice addition too, but apparently this many Vikings is enough to one-shot Tempest and to mostly just get rid of these carriers very easily too. There's the Templar Archives, yeah. I think Storm is gonna be basically a necessity. For Terran, a very good addition here would be the Ghost. Ghosts, of course, fantastic when it comes to dealing. Would you look at that, actually? We've got so many missile turrets being set up. It's sort of like they're spore crawlers, right? In the, well, Protoss versus Zerg matchup. SCVs over here getting rid of structures. When's the last time you've seen this? Battlecruisers coming up, okay. Immortals here now also on the production tab. These are not games that are played very frequently. I'm inclined to imagine that this is significantly better for the Protoss though. Mostly because Terran is not gonna have as easy a time to secure more bases, but I say that, on NeoHumanity, he can definitely pull it off. I actually would really not mind seeing these Nexi being taken aggressively. This is actually something I've been thinking about a lot over the last couple of weeks. So we see a lot of split map games right now on both NeoHumanity as well as Gresvin, right? And oftentimes, a lot of those games, if they go the distance, right? Say they go like past the half-hour mark, if they go like 40 plus minutes, the bases that are the most difficult to mine are the pivotal ones, the ones that are game deciding. At this point, it seems to me that this is a type of game that is planning to go the distance as well. Would it not be a fantastic idea right now for Classic to take one of these bases that is, well, now taken by the Terran? I really feel like this is a base that TY should not be allowed to take here. Because Zealots can take control of this area quite nicely, and mining out this base before this one would be absolutely massive. The center base, by the way, hasn't been taken yet here by Classic either, so that's kind of interesting. Obviously, there's only so many pros he's really got, but I've been wondering about taking one of the pivotal bases, one of the corner bases, and then sending all my workers on over there as quickly as possible, well, 16 of them in total, to mine out the outer bases first, because I know that that is going to be a pivotal one for the opponent later on. Wouldn't that be... I think that would be a good idea in Protoss versus Zerg, but also in Zerg versus Terran, apparently also in Protoss versus Terran now. Anyways, just my 2 cents, but I feel like strategically that would be the right call. Yamato Gun coming up, +3/+3 research coming up here as well for TY. We have the same thing happening on the other side of the map. Both players are just making their ultimate armies. Now maybe I'm mistaken though, because TY at this point does seem to be able to split up his units and actually still hold on. Actually, a very similar thing could also happen in favor of TY, I suppose. If he manages to take one of these bases, it would still be a proper split map, I suppose, right? It would still be 50-50, with Classic taking the ones at the bottom. Okay, so the Battlecruisers have already taken care of one Nexus, and they've already gotten rid of a bunch of other Protoss units here as well. +3/+3. It's gonna make those units incredibly powerful. Okay, the Viking clump has decided to land. We've got some Dark Templar coming up as well. I actually think Archons and High Templar would be a really nice addition, but you know what? Mass Viking actually surprisingly strong against the Nexus. Not really something you see all too often. Okay, a few Stalkers managed to get underneath, but yeah. They're not really going to be able to achieve that much against +3 armor Vikings. Dark Templar over here up north do get revealed here eventually with a scan, and the Battlecruisers and the PF itself, they're gonna be able to get rid of that pretty easily. Okay. So where does this game go from here? I actually am not sure. Classic has got so much money still that he can keep making these, well, groups of Dark Templar and not really care too much about the detection. He can just, well, go in. He can use the Shadow Strike defensively if he wants to. I think he just... Do you not just... No? We're not gonna kill the PF first? Okay. Well, the Planetary is gonna go down soon, I'm sure. Okay, eventually it does indeed fall. The Battlecruisers here being annoying. We have more and more Battlecruisers coming up as well. And this Nexus over here in a little bit of trouble. Offensive recall. Okay, in the direction of the Mama ship. But the Battlecruisers already decided to get out of there. I'm surprised we haven't seen Ghosts. Ghosts are incredible. Just an amazing unit. Maybe the animation is not that flashy, but the fact that he can effectively get rid of half of this Protoss army in one, well, fell swoop, right? With all of those shields being eliminated. Especially since you can definitely expect some High Templar in the mix here as well before too long, I think it would be a fantastic addition. As far as I can see, there's no Ghost Academy out just yet, and maybe it's not something TY is gonna go for, but I wouldn't mind it. Okay, here come the High Templar. Do we have Sonic Storm done? Man, when there's this many glowy buttons on the screen, I feel like it's kind of hard to notice, but getting the research going would be very nice. I'm always scared that I'm like, and he doesn't have High Templar with Storm. And then, you know, the engagement start and he does have High Templar with the Storm and I just didn't actually see the upgrade over here on that upgrades tab. That has happened more times than I'm willing to admit. So these days, I just sort of don't make a commitment to making any of those calls. I just sort of say that there might be a Storm. Guys, Storm wasn't researched yet. Storm was not yet researched. There it is, man. Okay. This base over here at the bottom indeed was destroyed, but it's gonna get re-destroyed. Is that a word? It is gonna get de-destroyed. It's gonna get undestroyed. No, actually it did definitely get destroyed again. So it got de-destroyed. There you go. Just to clarify that to everybody. If you have any questions, leave them down below in the comment section. I think getting the, yeah, Rich Vespian Geyser would be nice. Okay, Dark Templar here being annoying. Okay, so let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 bases, and then one over here that's a little difficult. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bases though for Protoss. So as time goes by, TY at best is going to even out the amount of resources he's been mining. Any bases from here are going to be very difficult to acquire, and I feel like it's going to require multiple planetary fortresses. Planetary fortri. Looks like the siege tank still managed to blow up one of those disruptors that would have definitely tried its best. 5 additional Stargates. Ay, ay, ay. We're going up to 10 Stargates. Mama ship, it's being recalled too, but that's never going to happen. My god, that was an explosion and a half. Minus 400 over there. Back in the day, you could feed back Battlecruisers, but I don't think that can really happen anymore. Nice storm over here, though. Yeah, the storm's definitely still hurt. And this base is going to be super dead. Void Rays fire up right now as well. I actually don't mind that idea. I don't think this is a game where you really can get a lot of value. Okay, he decides to just sack the Stalkers here, I think. I don't think it's a game where you're going to get a whole lot of value out of the Mama ship. As well, he does start up another one here. As powerful as the mothership is, you gotta be careful. It's very easy to get carried away with it. Okay, we're even going into the full shields here, by the way. Not something we see all too often. Okay, so we've got 1 Raven in the mix and just mass Sky Terran. Yeah, it's 25. Look at this. This is the only units that are available right now. Both players, actually. There's 1 Zealot still available. That one is desperately trying to sacrifice itself. There's 1 Dark Templar as well. That one will also be dead. I feel like Ghost would make this unit composition better. Like, there's not really an endgame unit composition where Ravens and Ghosts make it worse. Yet a lot of Terran players seem to disagree. Seriously, if we're gonna win this game, if TY wins this game without ever making a Ghost, I'm gonna be salty for the Protoss players in the comment section. Because he's not even using, like, this isn't even his final form. Like, this is just Super Saiyan 1, okay? This is like the 17th season. Oh my god, Yamato Gun's actually insane. Oh, he decides to jump and he wants to intercept all of these units. Sick move right here by TY. He's like, you're not going anywhere, boy. As he does decide to chase down his army. Desperation Stalker warp in over here. But I've got a feeling that this army here from TY is just absolutely demolishing. Now, this might be the first time that I see 10 carriers on the production tab. In 13 years of this game, I don't think I've ever seen 10 carriers being produced all at the same time. Fun fact about carriers, they take forever. They take forever to produce. I mean, maybe not that long, but they do take a very long time. Maybe not as long as a Mama ship or a Battlecruiser, though. The problem is, I've got a feeling we're going to see the exact same engagement again. At this point, we're long overdue, by the way, for a new map pool. I think this map pool has been around for like 7-ish months at this point, maybe even 8 by now. The new Team Liquid map contest, it already wrapped up, so at this point, we have new maps that are ready to go. I do believe that we're gonna be getting a new map pool at some point in the near future, and a lot of these Turtle games, we've been seeing more and more of them lately, as Terrans have started figuring out how to do it on, well, more and more maps. I think a lot of these late games, and a lot of these frustrations that I have seen over the last couple of weeks in the StarCraft community, they would be solved with a new map pool. Good luck trying to do this on another map. Here we go. Tactical jump apparently once again off cooldown. The Battlecruisers once again show up. So, I mean, this is by no means game over though. Classic still has more money in the bank than his opponent. But he's been trying to see if he can play a different type of game, but TY's like, nah. I'm just gonna sit here in my shell. I'm gonna tuck in my legs, tuck in my head, and I'll be a proper turtle. A tortoise? Maybe we need to call it the Tortoise Terran. Because, you know, we're not in water and all that. Although there is something beautiful about these mass Battlecruisers though, dude. 16 Battlecruisers in total. Let's go. Okay, so this Nexus is gonna be very dead. You know one thing I would love to see, TY? A little bit of a repair over here. A bunch of your BCs are not as healthy as you think they are. Mass Stalker warping over here, by the way, being annoying, but yeah, the BC does teleport away. I feel like we've seen a lot of Void Rays on the production tab, but they've done absolutely nothing in this game. Am I crazy? Have we seen Void Rays at all? Maybe they just died. Maybe I had them on the screen and I was just looking at the pretty pictures and I, for some reason, blurred out on the Void Rays. But I feel like I've seen Void Rays on the production tab for a while, but they've done very little. Okay, another command center goes down. You know what? TY actually doesn't have that much money. Recall, I love to see it. Okay, okay. In the meantime, yeah. Oh, we're once again gonna jump over here. They were recalled towards the mothership. Now, Mama Ship number 7 is going to die here. She doesn't realize it yet, but she's super dead. Okay. So what's the best counter that Protoss has against Battlecruisers? Because it seems like Classic is a little bit confused about it too. Tempest, Void Rays, Carriers, Stalkers, Storm. We have a transition, by the way, towards a lot of Widow Mines right here from TY. Love to see, by the way, that this game started off with Terran Mech, right? So the mass factory play was really just a stepping stone. The recalling over them all over the map, though, is actually really sick. Really powerful move. Protoss being able to quickly reposition with that mothership and with the Nexus is really neat. Okay. Vikings putting in quite a bit of work. Hyperflight rotors? Really, this is the moment where we're gonna be going for the Banshee speed upgrade. Yeah, we're starting up some Banshees. Okay. I'm not exactly sure what Banshees are going to achieve, but TY apparently is having a grand old time. He's actually not in that great of a spot, though. I say that. I'm not actually sure. Problem is, we're running out of gas. Yeah. So, Classic has taken those bases on the left side of the map earlier than his opponent. And he's been mining a good chunk of it, but... He doesn't actually have any gas anymore. Now, Zealots are good, but, you know, not particularly fantastic against flying structures and Battlecruisers and Vikings and all the rest of it. So these Zealots are nice. But last time I checked, Protoss does not have access to Queens at this point, right? So Zork in the late game against Terran or against Protoss would be making Mass Queen at this point, since they only cost 150 gas each. Protoss doesn't have a unit like that, and if he doesn't get any more gas income here, I'm actually very worried for him in this match. Because he still has a lot of minerals in the bank, but really nothing to spend them on. I mean, yeah, he's you know, doing these nice little Zealot run-bys, but eventually, at some point, the main army here of Terran is gonna have to be dealt with. Okay, so this is essentially do or die right now. He really needs an observer in the mix, by the way. Having some detection would be fantastic. Hyperflight Rotors gets denied. Okay. You know what? The Zealots are actually putting in more work than I thought. He could also make a lot of photon cannons, which I also wouldn't mind seeing. Like, maybe try to take one of these bases and just make 1,000,000 photon cannons over here. I actually think that that would probably be the best expenditure right now of all of the minerals here, because he can make more zealots, and the zealots are annoying, right? But what he really needs is more gas here, I think, in the end. Terran's still mining a base up north. He may think about taking this base over here on the right side too. That still has a fresh mineral line pretty much, and fresh gases. Okay. The Protoss fleet, once again, on the move. Battlecruisers do have a get out of jail for free card though, which is a little bit scary. That tactical jump. Pretty terrifying. Loses an oracle right here for free, by the way. Not ideal, but he's getting on top of the production. Okay. Here comes the Battlecruiser army as well, though, ready to apparently protect this base. And here they are. He decides to recall immediately. That is actually so sick, though. This is not a mechanic we've really seen being used that much. But tactical jump to force out the recall is really sick. Another 400 minerals down the drain. Okay, Zealot over here being obnoxious. TY is running out of steam. I can't believe he's not mixed in Ghost, though. Like, is there a downside to making Ghost here, other than, I guess, forcing the engagement? It's gonna be difficult to get him into the fight, I suppose, but... yeah, I guess the tech transition is kind of difficult, but... I mean, you should have at least one barracks. Yeah, make a tech lab on it, make a Ghost Academy. I think it's worth a few hundred resources. As long as as long as recall is available, Protoss can always get out of jail for free as well, right? At this point, though, it is on cooldown. So this is becoming very dangerous. Oh, the Viking clump over here. The Vikings are doing fantastically well. He's got pretty much enough Vikings here to one-shot everything. The carrier here is still in a little bit of trouble. Ooh, he just tried to activate okay, once again, he's gonna recall, I think, towards the Mama ship. Yeah, that's what the Mama ship is for, man. She's really just a glorified moving nexus. It's a little bit sad, but... maybe I shouldn't feel too bad about it. Classic is running out of steam. He really needs this base. Yeah, he needed that 5 minutes ago. I don't want to say I told you so, but... obviously, these are the type of games, though, that we don't see very often in StarCraft 2, so... I'm happy to discuss balance, but I'm also holding off of that for the most part, because I do know that this is not really a very studied area of StarCraft 2, you know what I mean? Like, there's definitely still things here that could have been done differently by both players that would have changed the outcome of this. In the end, I don't see how Classic is going to take down the fleet. I just don't see it. Yeah, look at the amount of resources he's lost. He's been playing this like his money is never gonna run out, man. But at some point, he bet the house in the casino on the roulette table. This is not what you should have done, Classic. In the end, though, TY is gonna be able to clean up pretty much all of these Protoss capital ships. And it's TY who wins game number 1. Game number 2. We find ourselves on the map Altitude. Now, I fast-forwarded through the first minute and a half, 2 minutes or so of this game, just because everything was normal. Altitude is the largest map in the current map pool. Curious to see if that means that we're gonna go for a similar strategy once again. I highly doubt it. Apparently Classic is not too keen to play on it again, but I honestly think on this map it would be significantly worse. Imagine NeoHumanity, right? So the map we were just on. On that map, taking this base and controlling it together with that one, with siege tanks, is not very difficult. But on this map, you would have to split up your units so much. If you then have to deal with a Zealot warping in the main base, I think it would just be a disaster. Anyways, Proxy Stargate right here for Classic. Let's see. Reaperman going across the map. Looks like it's a 2-1-1 opener here this time around from TY. So he's making a second barracks. Something he never got to in game 1. Yeah, so this is probably going to be a much more normal game. First Adept actually moving across the map. That is Reaper. It did take a curious path, and I think Classic assumed that it wouldn't be showing up anymore. Now he's going to lose a bunch of mining time, maybe a probe or two. Not liking this start right here for the Protoss very much. Okay, in the meantime, there is an Adept on the other side of the map trying to be annoying. Command Center did already finish up. Fair enough. Okay. So here's the Oracle coming up. The problem is that we've already got ourselves a Cyclone on the production tab as well. And the Cyclone is going to spawn right around the same time. Yeah. Looking at the progress bar on both of those structures, TY is going to be able to, at the very least assuming he's got his units in the right place, he is going to be able to push back that proxy Oracle as well. Okay, here's the Oracle. Here's the Cyclone. Okay, it's rallied towards the right angle. I mean, this would be horrible. Can he at least get a worker? No. Nothing. An unfortunate start right here for Classic. So the 2-1-1 does allow the Stimpeg research, so this is something he never got to in game 1 of this series. We should be saturating that one fully here as well in just a moment, but that's likely on purpose. And we've got ourselves a Twilight Council here inside of the main base of Classic. Okay. Yeah, it's one of those things, man. Balance, it's something that is commonly discussed, right? So I think a lot of people look at that previous game, a lot of Protoss players will look at that previous game, and they're like, Battlecruiser's overpowered. But really, what makes that overpowered? It's like, maybe, yeah, the end composition is very strong and hard to deal with, but the map is what ultimately allows that, right? Because you do need an absurd amount of economy to be able to make that many things all at the same time. So on a map like this, good luck trying to pull off that strategy. I would have liked to see it, but I think TY would have gotten absolutely dismantled by Classic if he decided to go for that Sky Terran army once again. So even though balance, it is something that is very delicate and something that, you know, definitely should be discussed from time to time, I think the maps have a very significant impact on strategies and, well, build orders that people end up going for. And it's not really something that is commonly talked about very often, you know? Like, people are very quick to jump the gun when it comes to specific unit balance or unit compositions and all the rest of it, but map balance is not really something that's discussed nearly as often, and I think that previous game is a pretty good example of exactly that. Anyways, Revelation over here in the main base. Good Stasis Ward denying over here as well by TY. He's got a pretty formidable group of units at this point, so yeah. This would be the moment if he wants to go for a push to go. Stimpeg at this point is done. Blink is not finished yet. We've got a couple medevacs over here. I like this move out actually here from Classic though, just to try and be annoying. I don't think he really wants to fight this all too aggressively, but at the very least he's forced TY to stay at home. 6-pin right there on that SCV. It'll probably be starting up a third command center here. Ooh, before too long. Blink at this moment is finishing. Charge on the back of it immediately. Colossus, I'm assuming as well, coming out of that robo facility here in a sec. There it is. Okay. So now we can start blinking this. The more Stimpeg you force, the better this becomes though for Classic. Don't lose this. Okay. It's no max specs micro. Anyways. Yeah, the more you stim, the better it is, I guess, because, well, the better it is for Protoss. Because these medevacs are going to run low on energy, and that makes it difficult for the Terran to go for any sort of aggression on the back of this, but of course this is nothing all too crazy. By the way, the SCV over here, maybe originally the plan was to have that one start up the third CC, but the third command center is coming up at the front of the natural instead, just a little bit safer. Okay. Barracks number 3, 4, and 5 finishing up shortly here for the Terran players. Stimpeg is done. Combat Shields is going to finish as well, and we've got ourselves the +1 infantry weapons. So all the roads eventually do lead towards Marine Marauder Medevac, except for the road in the previous one. That one went somewhere to the North Pole or something, okay? He took a wrong turn somewhere. Eventually, though, with the normal build orders that we usually see in Terran versus Protoss, all the roads do lead towards this particular unit composition that you see on the screen right now. Okay. You know what? I actually don't mind this. No. I don't think TY is really too concerned with people thinking of him as maybe like, even if he wins, you know, playing Terran Mech a couple times in a row, playing Turtle Terran. I don't think he's too concerned with people thinking of him as like a one-trick pony or anything like that. I don't think the pro gamers really care that much. But at the very least, this is going to be a good showing right here for TY to see where he's currently at in a straight-up game against Classic. Okay. Command Center number 3, flying up north. Classic has already had his base for a while. He'll probably be going for a 4th Nexus here very soon. Double forts as well, a little bit late actually. Wouldn't have minded seeing those coming up a little sooner. Problem is, yeah, when you get to 3 base economy, the Ghost Academy is something you have to be very concerned of as a Protoss player. The EMP skill is just fantastic. Now, of course, there is a moment, though, where, yeah, Terran has just invested a lot of resources into things that aren't really going to be available yet. Is this the moment where Protoss decides to go for an attack? It looks like it is. That first siege tank does require a follow-up attack, and I don't think I like this concave here all too much for Classic. Siege tanks in the back, siege tanks on the high ground, siege tanks in the main. I think this army is just going to get demolished. If he loses those Colossi as well and the sentries, I mean, this was a horrible engagement right here for Classic. Yep. Considering that's what he's been building up for minutes, I don't like that fight at all. Classic was going up against a Terran who was more than ready for it, so TY reading his opponent very nicely. I love the fact, by the way, that he left siege tanks in those pivotal locations. It's very tempting to put them all in the front, and then suddenly you're in a little bit of trouble. But now even with like a warp in the main base, he would still mostly be covered. Now the ghosts do start up. Wouldn't mind seeing a second engineering bay and maybe an armory coming up. Stalkers here are going to try and be annoying. TY, though, not really taking a whole lot of aggression here to his opponent. He could definitely have counterattacked if he wanted to, but apparently he's just happy to build up that ghost army instead. Yeah, a lot of Terrans like to play that more passive game right now. For good reason. Their late game armies are really, really powerful. Disruptors are coming up. And Disruptors, of course, are literally hit or miss. They can be absolutely amazing against Terran players that aren't microing very well, but I'm inclined to imagine, considering how on point TY has been so far, that he is going to be on point here, and that he is going to be able to micro out of those purification zones. Liberators now also coming up, by the way. Liberators and Ghosts are the next units here for TY. Both are difficult to clean up here for Classic, who's going in for a Zealot run by right now from the right side. Okay. This Zealot run by does have some potential. There is a bunker set up, but not really that many units. Purification Nova over here, not getting that much done. EMPs, okay, beautiful EMP. Getting rid of a lot of that HP. Zealots over here will be able to get rid of the bunker, it looks like. +1/+1, finishing up for TY, or sorry, for Protoss here eventually. But the Nexus is in some trouble. Yeah, there's just no way for Classic to properly clean all of this up. Those siege tanks in the bank just, or in the back rather, such a great anchor to fall back to. Triple Disruptor, by the way, coming up all at the same time. When things are desperate, you have to do whatever you need to get back into the swing of things, and at this point Classic is essentially putting his money on a lucky Purification Nova. The more Liberators come out, though, the harder this is going to be for our Protoss player to pull off. At this point we've got 4 of them, especially once Terrans start transitioning towards, well, 8 or so, it becomes very difficult to get much done. Especially with, like, Liberator ranged upgrade with advanced ballistics. Anyways, 4th command center at this point is done. We're gonna secure that one here at the bottom. Protoss also taking a new base over there. As a matter of fact, he's double expanding right now. He needs to get a lucky strike. He's aiming for one. Good control by TY. Let's go. That was really lovely done. Zealot run by over here once again. Pop in the bunker, boys. Come on. No? These guys, absolute badasses, man. Could have found the safety of the bunker, but apparently they didn't really need it until after the fight. Absolute legends. +2/+2 coming up for Terran. Pretty late. Additional barracks, though. Barracks number 6, 7, and 8 now coming up. Yeah, so basically the unit composition right now for Classic is Disruptors and Stalkers. That's really all we've got. We've got Zealots for the run-by, I suppose, but this is not a particularly good late-game army composition. The main advantage, I guess, here is that Protoss doesn't play against the Terran yet. That has a lot of great upgrades themselves, but that's mostly because TY is a little late on those. Okay. Well, getting some good hits in, though. Oh, ooh, careful. Don't hit your own army. That could be a problem. Okay. Bunch of units end up going down. You know what? This fight is going much better, oh my god, than I thought it would. Excellent engagement right there by Classic. That being said, mostly because of the fact that only half of the Terran army was present, as the other half is currently down south. And that's going to be another dead base. Okay. Another Nexus is to the right of this. Has TY found it? No, he hasn't actually seen it. So he's currently scanning, trying to figure out what's happening here. Is he gonna go for the natural? Is he gonna YOLO these units in? Oh, he's thinking about it. Yep. Sorry, boys. Looks like it's a one-way trip after all. Widow Mines, Liberators, all the rest of it, just trying to be as annoying as possible. Good effort here, though, from Classic. He's been fighting an uphill battle for a while, and he's actually doing well with the unit composition that he's got. Good control right there as well on that Prism, picking up the Disruptors. Oh, good connections this time around. Problem is, again, that was only a small chunk of the Terran army. The reinforcements have arrived. 40 probes end up going down here. Another Nexus falls, and Classic is starting to bleed out of units. Honestly, if anything, this game is an excellent example of where TY is currently at. Showing us that he is a top-tier Terran who's not to be reckoned with here. +2/+2 only. Like, the only criticism here I have is the upgrade timings. I feel like the upgrades are very late. But anyways, Protoss is barely affording anything here. Trying his very best to just squeeze out whatever research he can get. This is not a game, though, where I don't think Classic is ever going to transition towards anything else. So, if Classic loses this particular match, he's out of the GSL Code S for this season. So, he's gonna stick in here for as long as he can. There is still a chance that Terran is gonna make a mistake and hit a massive disruptor to the face, but at this point, he really is grasping for straws, though. He's trying his best. Good pickup micro right there as well on the medevac. Terran units now coming in from the bottom of the map. Planetary Fortress will actually sustain itself. Okay, that Purification Nova does connect. Problem is, the supply count is telling us the complete story here. It is now literally doubled, well, before that warp-in anyways, by our Terran player. And the amount of units he's got available is just absurd. Protoss doesn't even really need to fight this right now. He could boost his units in the medevac towards the other side of the map. It's not like Protoss is really gonna get into the main base very easily. There are 2 prisms available, so he's trying his best, but the amount of siege tanks here in the back is gonna make it difficult. Stim has been activated. The units on the other side of the map have been tasked to try and obtain the victory here. Planetary does fall, but that's because TY is just playing this conservatively. He could have taken that fight if he wanted to, but I actually think it's the correct move. Just try to buy time wherever you can. Now, this is kind of scary still, though. Blink into the main base. A lot of disruptors available. Purification Nova. Okay, does move forward here eventually. Almost a disaster right there. Prism number 1 ends up going down. There's still a second prism. Nexus in the natural expansion of Classic has already fallen as well. Okay. Yeah, no. All of the units here are going down. Only 28 probes remain. The main base of our Protoss player is in trouble. He is on top of the production, though, of TY at this point. He's got a large amount of army here. The problem is, it's probably not large enough. Nice pickup micro once again by TY, though. Marauders are popping out of these production structures eventually. And judging here by the main base, I don't think Classic is really going to be able to produce a whole lot more for a whole lot longer. So he's effectively going to have to win this series with this army that he's got right now. And considering he's bleeding out in literally every single area of this map, I think this is Classic processing the loss. The base over here at the bottom of the map gets scanned. Terran is running on over in this direction. And this win indeed means that TY is moving on to the next stage of the tournament.